What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. I thought tonight would be a good time to piggyback off yesterday's video, last night's video, which was about Heidi Powell talking about how nobody should do more than 30 minutes of cardio a day or 30 minutes 3 times a week, whatever the fucking random comment she made was. Either way, it was just asinine, the stuff she was talking about. So we're going to do the 2018 Summer Shape Up. We've already talked about training. We've already talked about diet. Today we're going to do cardio. We'll stick with the cardio theme this week. Well, as far as yesterday and today, we're talking about cardio and how to set up your cardio program. Now, first of all, there is, steady state, low intensity, steady state cardio, or LISS. There is high intensity, right? High intensity interval cardio, HIIT. There's all these little acronyms that make people really cute with them and stuff. But anyways, so let's take the steady state first. Now, there's low intensity steady state. And then there's also steady state, which are two different things. And I think people get confused as fuck because low intensity steady state used to be the only one that was around. It's like when you get on the treadmill and walk at like fucking 1.5, that's low intensity steady state, right? And that one has been around for quite a while. And basically it's for the people that fucking hate doing cardio, right? They get on there and they barely move. I get it. I've been there myself before. I don't technically need a lot of high intensity cardio to lose fat, but if I do the low intensity stuff, I get good enough results. Now that's my body. Now, low intensity steady state is that slow moving. Then there's steady state. So steady state basically just means that you're not going up and down with intervals, right? So you're not cranking it out, then reducing it, then cranking it out. You're basically staying at a steady state. Now, you could get up to a certain point that keeps your heart rate really high where you're just fucking pouring sweat and you can't keep up a conversation. Technically, it's pretty high intensity, although it's not considered high intensity interval training, but it's still steady state, but it's high intensity. So it's like high intensity steady state. HISS, I guess I don't even know if that's a fucking thing, but there's a good possibility that somebody's already made this shit up and I just haven't seen it. But thing is, steady state is a real thing, okay? Now, I personally like the steady state, and I'll go through why. Many of these high intensity intervals, now a lot of people, they're the calories in, calories out crew, they love that, right? They're like, oh, I gotta burn 400 calories on the treadmill. So they're burning 400 calories and they cannot figure out why the fuck I'll burn like, at the tops, like 100 fucking calories, but I'll still lose 3 to 4 pounds of fat a week, maintain my strength and muscle mass right up to the last 2 weeks before a show, and I'm not restricting my calories, like starving myself. How the fuck am I doing it? Well, the way the body utilizes oxygen is a lot different than in a steady state situation, even if it's pretty high, but it's not super high. When you hit those high intensity intervals, and some people have to do them, their bodies respond very well to it, but there is a lot more glycogen that comes into play, okay? The higher the intensity of the cardio itself, the more glycogen that gets into play, and actually the more muscle loss too. And I know some people would argue with me, but bottom line is when you're trying to pull 400 calories and you don't give a shit how you do it and you just get there, like your body doesn't give a fuck. It just needs to produce energy. And it will pull muscle, fat, glycogen, it'll pull whatever the fuck it can to get there to produce energy for that, for that result. Now, the way that the body uses oxygen, as soon as you're done with a steady state cardio, your body has like the afterburn effect or the post-exercise oxygen consumption, it's called, where it utilizes oxygen at an excessive rate for a certain period of time. Now, aerobic means with oxygen, right? Body fat can only be used with oxygen like that, right? You need the oxygen in order to burn the body fat. So you get this afterburner effect that gives you a much longer period of time than, you would see if you were, doing the high intensity intervals, which some people fucking love. I'm getting it, right? I'll get there in a second. The high intensity interval training. Now, some people will say, well, it's better to do 15 minutes of that than do the hour or whatever of, steady state or whatever it takes. Now, if you're doing the high, I don't want to call it high intensity, but if you're doing the steady state that's not low intensity steady state, you're not going to be doing an hour. Like you could not get on the treadmill or bike or whatever and crank out the intensity steady state that's fairly high and maintain that for an hour. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a mixture of the steady state, low intensity and high intensity intervals together. It's like right in the middle. It's like the love child of both of them together, right? Which is kind of like where I like to stay with my personal training. That works well for me. Now, I have trained plenty of people that need to go high intensity steady state. Now, I have personally found, this is just me, and this is, the science and science, right? Science will tell you this, science will tell you get, but I can tell you real world results, and let's face facts, we're all here for results. We don't give a fuck what a newspaper says, or a fucking, somebody put out a fucking paper and publish this. If it doesn't fucking work, we don't really care what those papers say. Now, in a keto adapted state, the high intensity interval training works really, really well, okay? I've seen it time and time again, but I've honestly figured out a way to kind of use them all. And usually you have to start with somebody who basically isn't training. You're not going to throw them on intervals. Some trainers do. They basically fucking kill their clients with intervals. Their bodies are not even adapted to doing it yet, and they don't feel like they're going to fucking die, and they wind up quitting because it's too intense. So usually I have somebody start with the low intensity steady state, build up from there, and use progression until they get to the point where it's steady state and not low intensity. And then if we need to hit something more intense, progression-wise, we'll go to interval cardio. Now, with the carbohydrates. Now, remember, if you're doing high-intensity intervals, it is aerobic, but it's also anaerobic. It gets to the point like the anaerobic threshold where your body will utilize more glycogen if it has it, okay? If it doesn't, it's literally going to find some more glycogen because the intensity is so high that the body has a hard time pulling body fat enough to make up the bulk of what you're burning. So every time you do cardio, you're burning a combination of carbohydrates, glycogen, fat, whether it's stuff you've eaten, stored body fat, protein, muscle. There's a combination of everything going on. The idea is you want to minimize the muscle loss as much as possible, and that really comes through diet. It's not really necessarily the cardio. So basically what you want to do is pick something that you enjoy and stick with it. If you enjoy the interval training cardio, fine, go for it, knock yourself out. You enjoy the steady state, fine. You enjoy low intensity steady state, fine, do whatever the fuck you need to do. But just like weight training, okay, progressive resistance, progression in cardio, it's the same fucking thing. And what I like to do is I like to, I don't like to push anybody more than an hour in cardio. To me, it just seems to the point where I don't even think it's an actual physical thing. I think it's an actual mental thing. And I myself have been there plenty of times, and so have clients that have had shows that had no choice and they had to kill the cardio. And it seems like as you're creeping up on that 60 minutes, you start to fucking freak out. I'm not even sure why. I think it's because technically now it's an hour, right? If you did 55 minutes, 57 minutes, 59 minutes, it's still 59 minutes. When you do 60 minutes, it's an hour. I did an hour of cardio, and that word fucking scares the shit out of people. And I'll tell you what, I don't like it either. I'll tell you right now, when somebody says, Jerry, you're gonna do an hour of cardio, I'm like, ugh. I feel like, Jerry, you're gonna do 59 minutes of cardio. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I don't understand. A lot of it's mental. But when you get into that point where you have to do whatever the fuck you have to do, you can even combine days where you're doing, let's say you're having heavy depletion days, okay? Now this goes back to Dan Duchesne. Actually had it set up where his diet, training, and cardio would actually complement each other, which is kind of where I understood that they're supposed to work together. And he would have days where they were heavy depletion days, they call it. And what he'd do is they wouldn't actually go in there, and this is what's weird, they wouldn't actually go in there and do like high reps to deplete, like getting ready for a show, people do high reps depleting and then they carb up. He would actually train heavy, what they called heavy duty style. And then they would do high intensity interval cardio afterwards for a certain period of time to get the body more depleted of glycogen. So even though, this is back in the day, which is this book right here, I showed it before and people fucking bugged out. So even though back in the day, there was a lot less science and studies, even Dan Duchesne knew that you're going to actually deplete your glycogen faster doing the high intensity interval training rather than the steady state, which that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get them into a state of ketosis and get rid of those glycogen and carbohydrates as fast as he could and drop them into keto, which he found that's what did it. Now, for me, I fully believe that you just have to do what you have to do, and everybody is fucking different. So there is no one way to do it. So right now I'm saying this, people will be like, fuck you, Jerry, and because people are angry all the time, I do high intensity intervals and it fucking makes great. I've heard people say, well, you're damaging the muscle more doing that, so when you're done, it takes more time. Like, you're damaging the muscle? You shouldn't be damaging the muscle while you're doing fucking cardio, right? If you're damaging the muscle, you're going too far and you're going anaerobic. If you're becoming anaerobic, that defeats the whole fucking purpose. You may be burning calories, but it's anaerobic, which means the body has to recover afterwards like an anaerobic workout. In other words, replenish the muscles of glycogen, make sure the amino acids are there to rebuild what was it's literally just like doing a workout. So now technically, you're having the effect of two workouts, which I've also seen people like Jay Cutler do, in the morning, 40 minutes of cardio. He would eat, maybe take a nap, eat another meal, go to the gym, do his first session at like 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd go home, eat a few more meals, rest, take another nap, and then he would go back at night, train again with weights, and then do cardio on top of it after that. And it was like a 2-a-day routine, and I think it was 6 days a week that he was doing that, plus cardio on the off days too. And of course, he got fucking super lean. You know what I mean? You're having so much metabolism boost from the 2 weight training sessions. The 2 cardio sessions are absolutely increasing your metabolism and utilizing fat after it with the extra oxygen. Like, there's so many fucking ways to do this, guys, that there is no one right way. I can give you my opinion, what I've seen over the years, and what I know that, if you apply it to almost everybody out there, it's going to get the best results, because there is a ton of people that they're not going to be able to make 10 weeks of high intensity interval cardio. They're not going to be able to make 10 weeks. They're going to fry their central nervous systems long before that ever happens. Now, there are also other people that combine deload weeks right? They're deloading their fucking training, and I'm sitting there going, you're deloading. Why aren't you recovering from your training? Because the cardio is being compounded on top of it, which both zaps your central nervous system. Now, overtraining, acute overtraining is muscular. Chronic overtraining is your central nervous system not being able to recover. And if you're doing certain amounts of cardio, 400 calories, high intensity interval cardio, that is absolutely going to zap your central nervous system a lot more than the other ones. Now, whether you're trying to get bigger or if you're trying to get bigger, you're probably not doing all that cardio, but when you're trying to get leaner, the last thing you want is your central nervous system to get fried, because you literally are then overtraining. Like, it's not long before that muscle loss starts to set in. And we do see a lot of people, 5 or 6 weeks out from a show, starting to lose strength. That means you're losing muscle. That means the diet is not working with the cardio and the training together. Something is off, and they wind up getting into a show, and or they'll say, well, I have to start my diet like 25 weeks out so I don't lose muscle. It's like, well, because you're pushing that cardio. Like, you should be training hard in the gym with the weights, right? But you're pushing that cardio to the point where your body's fucking having a hard time handling it. Now, again, some people have to do that. And again, keto adapted athletes I've seen do great with that. And if they wanted to do the low intensity steady state or just the steady state, you'd have to do like an hour, 2 hours, fucking 2.5 hours a day to get the same effect of the high intensity interval training. However, carb adapted athletes, carb cycling athletes, exactly the opposite. You can get away with doing this the steady state, which is a higher intensity, but not necessarily the low intensity. I keep saying this over and over again, so it really hammers it home to you guys that there is a difference between LIS and HIS. I know, these fucking acronyms, whatever. These acronyms, Jesus Christ. So hopefully this explains to you guys a little bit that there are several different types of cardio. And the one I want to talk about now is not perceived as, although your heart rate stays up and it burns calories, are these metabolic workouts. And some people say, well, I don't do any cardio whatsoever. I do these metabolic workouts. So what they do is have them pretty much consistently keep their heart rate up nonstop for a certain amount of time. It's usually 45 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes nonstop. Like they have Tabata, they have this thing. Now, are they going to get results? Yes. But is it still anaerobic? Yes. You are doing maximum muscular contractions. Unless you can do a squat for 35 minutes straight. I mean, try to squat for 5 minutes straight and see where you wind up. That's anaerobic. It's not aerobic. So all these people talking about, well, I don't do cardio, I do these metabolic things. Yes, you're doing metabolic things. You are increasing your heart rate. You are burning more calories than if you were just training by itself. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing cardio. I mean, a lot of your diet comes into play when you're doing those types of training to make sure that you're in caloric restriction and a deficit so that you actually lose the body fat. And, I understand cardio is boring. Like, people hate cardio. It's so fucking boring. But then again, to do these metabolic workouts takes so much fucking time and energy that I guarantee you, if you did a 12-week fucking program with only these metabolic workouts and no fucking cardio whatsoever, I guarantee you 5 weeks into this, you're going to be fucking fried. You're going to have problems in the gym. Your strength is going to go down. You're going to feel shit. You're going to be unmotivated. You're going to have a hard time sleeping. All of these things happen because it goes from acute to chronic overtraining. Then you're pretty much fucked. You have to just gut it out, tough it out. Hormones go fucking crazy. And basically in the end, you're all fucked up after the show. And then we have these metabolic rebounds, metabolic damage. We have all these problems because people didn't actually stop and go, you know what? Technically, it's not cardio. Technically, it's anaerobic. Even though my heart rate is up, it's not the same. Like, my body needs to be replenished. My central nervous system needs to be fucking healed. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I think people are, I don't think they're just not aware of. I think, all the information is out there, but people don't dig. They just figure if my heart rate's up, then, I'm doing cardio. Like, if there's somebody jumping rope and they jump rope for 25 minutes nonstop, like my friend Ani and my friend Chaz, they would literally skip a rope for like 25 minutes, 30 minutes nonstop, never miss a beat, never fuck up. They do all these different formations and shit like boxers do. Guess what? 25 minutes nonstop, your body's now in an aerobic state. These guys that are jumping rope for intervals for a minute and then resting 2 minutes and jump for a minute and rest a minute, you're now in an anaerobic state, okay? Because your body's replenishing itself in between those and it's manufacturing more ATP and getting ready to go. And the oxygen is not necessarily the main thing that your body is using, trying to break down body fat. So hopefully after all this fucking shit, you guys understand that, it's not that easy, okay? It's not as easy as everybody would like you to believe out there in these forums and stuff. Well, just do this, just do that. It's like, well, if that was true, everybody would be able to make their bodies change like crazy and be very, 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 very good at doing what everybody else is trying to do. And the fact is, that's not a fact. Everybody has a hard time. I mean, everyone has a hard time trying to figure out what they should do unless you have these things put together and understand how they really work. And there are things that, even I don't fully understand. I'll be the first one to tell you. I know it works, but I don't even understand how it works, because if you read one study or you read one chemistry book, you read one biology book, they'll tell you one thing, then a new study will pop up and say, well, no, we think it's this instead because there's this other pathway or whatever. So in the long run, it's like, it's good to look at the studies, it's good to fucking pay attention to the books and stuff, but as science catches up and learns new things, a lot of the old things get thrown by the side, or by the wayside, get fucking just kind of left behind, and we're starting new things. So basically, if you want to break it down, you got low intensity steady state, you have steady state, and then you have high intensity interval cardio. So those are the three where you begin. Start experimenting with all three to find out which one works best for you. And when you find what works best for you, it doesn't matter what someone in the gym tells you, right? If it's working, fucking stick with it, okay? I don't care who fucking has a PhD. I don't care who has a fucking book on them. I don't care who can fucking Google like a motherfucker. Fuck them. If it's working for you, it's working for you, and that's all you have to worry about. Stop worrying about everybody else out there, what they're doing, what they're thinking, and just concentrate on you, because then you're going to get the fastest results you possibly can, because it's made specifically for you. BioStrengthTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostrength.com is the blog. This is just for you cardio bicep, and we are out.